They just wanted to clean hotel rooms and save money for school. But what they walked into was far from ordinary. In the beautiful and bustling city of Abuja lived a woman and her 2 daughters. She was fondly known as Mama Mishai. They lived in Nyanya, a busy area in Abuja. Mama Mishai ran a small kiosk where she sold bread, fried eggs, tea, and Indomie noodles with eggs. Her husband, Mr. Bami, was a carpenter and a heavy drinker. The only consolation in his drinking habit was that he never laid hands on his wife. Still, it was deeply troubling for Mama Mishai and her daughters, as he always stayed out late into the night, which could expose both him and his family to danger. There were always robbery attacks in their area, so coming home late at night was really dangerous. Even though things were tough for them, they were strong Christians and true Catholics. Mama Mishai taught her children to follow the ways of Christ. Their faith was very important to them. Every morning by 5 a.m., the whole family would come together to pray the rosary before starting their day. They never missed church on Sundays. Evangel, the older daughter, always kept her rosary in her small bag or sometimes wore it around her neck to remind herself of her faith. The family didn't struggle much with daily feeding, but money was tight, especially when it came to the girls' education. Evangel dreamed of studying law, while Angela aspired to become a doctor. Sadly, they couldn't afford to send them to the universities of their choice, which became a major setback for the sisters. Mama Mishai worked really hard every day. She would wake up very early to go to bakeries and buy fresh bread at cheaper prices so that she could resell them and make a little profit. Her daughters, Evangel and Angela, were always there to help her however they could. One morning, Mama Mishai was down with malaria, so Evangel had to go to the bakery alone. On her way, she saw an advert in front of a fancy-looking hotel. The advert read, "Cleaners are needed. Good pay. Apply in person." Evangel stopped and looked at the beautiful building. Expensive cars were driving in and out. The name of the hotel was written as M Luxury Hotel. It was written boldly above the gate. It looked like a great chance. She quickly bought the bread and rushed home to tell Angela. After talking with their mother, since their father wasn't around as usual, Mama Mishai agreed it would be a good opportunity for the girls to work and save up for school. The next day, after helping their mother clean the kiosk and arrange her goods, Evangel and Angela left for the hotel around 9 a.m. When they arrived at M Luxury Hotel, they met Madam Shola, the receptionist. She was a kind woman wearing a neat Ankara dress. Her head tie was stylish but looked a little funny on her head. She smiled warmly and asked them why they came. They told her they wanted to apply for the cleaning job. She asked them to sit down and wait for the manager. A few minutes later, she brought them 2 cans of malt on a tray and even opened them by herself before giving it to them. The girls thanked her and sipped the drinks while watching people walk in and out of the hotel. Some men smiled and nodded at them. Others waved. The whole place smelled of expensive perfumes. 30 minutes passed, but the manager still hadn't come. Soon, the girls dozed off on the couch. Meanwhile, back at home, it was already 4 p.m. and they hadn't returned. Mama Mishai was getting worried. She tried calling their phones. They rang, but no one picked up. Her customers noticed something was wrong. One woman complained that the egg in her Indomie was burnt. Mama Mishai looked confused, clearly lost in thoughts. She quickly apologized to her customer. By 8 p.m., her daughters were still not back. Their phones kept ringing, but no one answered. Mama Mishai's hands shook as she went into her small room, knelt down and began to pray. Her husband was still not home and fear filled her heart. Meanwhile, at the hotel, Evangel and Angela slowly opened their eyes. But they weren't at the hotel reception anymore. They found themselves in a small dark room. Their heads were aching so badly. Evangel groaned and said, Angela, where are we? What happened? How long have we been sleeping? Angela looked so confused and scared. Before they could say more, someone knocked on the door. Then a tall man walked in with a polite smile. I am the manager of this hotel, he said gently. You both looked very tired, so I let you to rest. The girls looked at each other in shock. Rest? Evangel asked, glancing around in the dark room. Here, in this place? On the floor, Angela whispered. The man raised his eyebrows. Did you say something? Out of fear, they quickly shook their heads. No, sir, we didn't say anything. The man nodded and said, your phones will be switched off, and congratulations, you've gotten the job. You won't be going home again. Eh? He handed them 2 uniforms. Evangel and Angela were shocked. Sir, have we been kidnapped? Angela asked quietly. The man laughed in a strange way. You should be happy you are still alive, oh. That's when Evangel and Angela knew something was really wrong. Evangel held onto her feet and quietly started praying in her heart. The man turned and left the room. The girls started crying. But Evangel told her sister, don't cry. Let's stay strong. This isn't the time for us to be scared. We need to pray. She held tightly to the rosary around her neck and started leading her sister in prayer. With shaky voices, they asked God for mercy and help. After a while, there was another knock on the door. A young woman named Bumi came in with a mop and bucket. Your work starts tonight, she said in a cold voice. The VIP rooms are cleaned at night, but cleaning isn't the only thing here. Some guests want you to smile. Some of them want you to be quiet. Some want more. Just do what you're told. Collect tips and stay silent. You were lucky this year. Many girls who came didn't survive. This hotel doesn't offer jobs often. Then suddenly she stopped talking. She wanted to say more, but she couldn't. M Luxury Hotel is owned by a man called Grandpa Onus. Some of his friends gave him that name because he looked much older than his age. When he first managed to build the hotel, his plans were actually good. But after spending a lot of money on the fancy building, he became desperate. He wanted to make so much money, no matter what it took him. One evening, he sat outside with his close friend, Mr. Shegun. Shegun, he asked, how did you become so rich, Seth? Mr. Shegun smiled in a strange way. You really want to know? Once I tell you, there's no going back, oh my guy. Grandpa News didn't care. He just wanted to be so rich. He wanted to make so much money out of his new business. Mr. Shegun finally told him he belongs to a secret group. They met 2 times in a year at a river where a mermaid lived. The river goddess gave them riches, but in return, she asked for something different each time. Grandpa Onus didn't care what she would ask him for. He agreed right away. Soon, he met the mermaid at the river. His task was simple but evil. Every 2 years, he had to bring young girls to the hotel for fake job interviews. Then he would sacrifice them. He would say some strange words. The girls would turn into a fish. Then he would cut them. The hotel manager, Mr. Dennis, usually helped him. After each sacrifice, Dennis packed the body parts into a van and drove them to the river. The van always smelled like fish, so nobody suspected anything. So Grandpa Onus needed a new offering, and Evangel and Angela came for the interview, while 2 other girls had already been taken in. And as usual, the hotel never picked male applicants. Back at home, Mama Mishai was pacing around, praying and panicking. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. It was her husband. Thankfully, for the first time in a long while, he was not drunk. She let out a deep sigh of relief. This was unusual because drinking had become a habit for him. He looked at her worried face and asked, "What's wrong?" She wasted no time and told him our daughters left the house by 9 a.m. for a cleaning job interview at M Luxury Hotel. It's already 10 p.m. and they haven't returned. Immediately, fear gripped him. What? That's too long. Let's report to the police now, he said urgently. Without wasting time, Mama Mishai headed straight to the police station while he went to M Luxury Hotel to check things for himself. At the station, she met Officer Kenneth. After listening to her, he took her statement and promised to begin an investigation with his team right away. Meanwhile, her husband arrived at the hotel. It was already very late. The gate man looked at him suspiciously and asked, "Oga, you want lodge?" He shook his head quickly. No. I'm looking for my daughters. They came here earlier today for a cleaning job interview, but the gate man didn't let him in. Sorry, Oga. Sorry, sir. No entry, unless you are a guest. He was left with no other choice, so he turned around and headed back home. His heart was heavy with worry. Deep down, he knew something was seriously wrong somewhere. The following morning, Officer Kenneth and one other officer went to M Luxury Hotel. At the reception, they were greeted by Mrs. Shola, who wore a usual cheerful smile. "Welcome, officers. How can we help you?" she asked pleasantly. "We need to speak to the manager and the hotel owner," they said. Just then, the manager, Mr. Dennis, approached. They explained they were investigating the disappearance of two sisters who had come for a cleaning job the day before. Mr. Dennis smiled politely and said, "No, officers, there were no such applicants here. If we had such applicants, they would have gone home." He pulled out a record book showing a list of all visitors who had checked in or out. The girls' names were in there. When the officers requested to see the CCTV footage, they saw nothing suspicious. The girls were not captured entering the hotel. Meanwhile, the police officers were quietly giving some money as a thank you for coming. They took the cash, smiled and thanked the hotel manager, and left without asking more questions. By this time, Evangel and Angela had been inside the hotel for more than 24 hours. That night, they were told to clean the hotel corridors. The hallway lights kept blinking strangely, and everything felt creepy. Their hearts were beating fast with fear. But even in the middle of that scary moment, the girls didn't stop praying. They held on to their faith and kept trusting that God would save them. Later that night, Evangel was asked to clean a man's room. While she was cleaning, he gave her some money. He looked kind and friendly, but deep down she was worried. What if he's one of them? She thought to herself. She remembered what Bumi had told them earlier. Don't talk. Don't ask questions, just take the money and go. The fear that someone might be watching her was real. The two other girls who came before them had already been taken into a secret room in the hotel. That room was always locked and only Grandpa Onus had the key. The next day, being their third day in the hotel, something strange and frightening happened that night. Evangel and Angela were cleaning the corridor as usual when they suddenly heard someone scream. But the scream stopped quickly, followed by a loud, heavy sound, like someone was being hit. After that, everywhere went quiet. The girls looked at each other in fear. Angela's eyes filled with tears. If we had known, we would never have come here," she whispered. Evangel was scared too, but she tried to be strong. Please, my sister, let's not just give up on God," she said softly. "I'm scared too, but being afraid won't help us now. We should thank God that we are still alive." Some of the girls didn't make it, just like Bumi said. "Let's keep praying. I truly believe God will bring us out of here." The girls kept on cleaning, but after a while, they started to notice a strange fishy smell. Not long after, they heard footsteps leaving the corridor. Then they heard the sound of a van driving away into the night. What Evangel and Angela didn't know was that Grandpa Onus had seen them on the hotel's CCTV cameras the day they arrived. He had quietly told the staff to keep them aside for the next year's sacrifice. He had taken in 4 girls altogether. Two would be used this year, and the other two, Evangel and Angela, would be kept for the next year's sacrifice. He planned to control them using dark powers. But no matter how careful wicked people try to be, they always make a mistake somewhere. And sometimes that's how their downfall begins. Back at home, Mama Mishai and her husband went back to the police station just to find out if there had been any progress made. But the officer they met the day before wasn't there. This time, they met a new officer named Sheyi. He listened to them patiently, checked their file, and noticed something was strange. The case had already been marked as closed. That didn't sit well with him. Something in his heart told him to take action. Even though he was just a junior officer, he looked at the worried parents and said, "Don't worry, I'll do everything I can to help you find your daughters." Tears filled Mama Mishai's eyes as she and her husband thanked him deeply. That night, Evangel was told to go back and clean the same man's room, the one who had given her money before. When she entered, she saw him reading a Bible. That gave her some comfort. He also noticed the rosary around her neck. "Are you a Catholic?" he asked kindly. "Yes, sir," she replied. That's good. You cleaned my room yesterday. You looked troubled." Evangel sighed deeply. Then, with a shaky voice, she told him the truth. Sir, my sister and I were kidnapped. We are not staffs here. We don't feel safe. I don't even know who to trust anymore." The man was shocked. "What? I thought you worked here." She quickly explained how they were tricked and brought to the hotel. He shook his head in disbelief. "Don't worry, I'm going to help you, but I'll do it quietly." As they talked, Evangel kept cleaning, pretending everything was normal in case anyone was watching. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. It was Bumi. She looked at Evangel with suspicious eyes. "Why are you taking so long?" Bumi asked sharply. Evangel glanced at the man. He quickly buried his face in the Bible and said nothing. As Evangel stepped out of the room, Bumi grabbed her by the arm. "I hope you didn't tell that man anything," she said firmly. "If you did, you're in big trouble. Grandpa Onus hears everything that goes on in this place." Evangel looked at her straight in the eyes. "Why are you even part of this? How did you end up here?" Bumi sighed. "That doesn't matter. I'm just thankful I'm still alive. And you should be too. Or do you want to die here? At least I'm surviving. But you're trying to escape. You might die at this point." Evangel didn't back down. "And you think you'll survive forever like this?" At that moment, Bumi broke into tears. "I was forced to swear an oath," she started to say. But suddenly, she stopped. It was like something held her tongue. She couldn't speak anymore. She looked scared. She turned around and slowly walked away. Evangel, who became more frightened, ran to Angela and told her everything. The two of them held hands and prayed with all their hearts. But then something strange happened. When Evangel went to clean the man's room like she always did, he was no longer there. Did he just disappear? She wondered. She felt a little worried but didn't want to lose hope. She cleaned the room quietly and then went back to sit with her sister. That night, they began to hear strange noises. Then they heard a siren. Evangel and Angela were in their room holding hands and praying. Suddenly, the door opened. It was Officer Sheyi. He wasn't alone. Other officers were with him, checking all the rooms in the hotel. Evangel and Angela were finally rescued and taken to safety. The police arrested Grandpa Onus, Madam Shola, and the hotel manager. Even Bumi was taken in for questioning. It was later found out that Bumi had been under a deep dark spell. Grandpa Onus had used something evil to control her. Now, you may be wondering, why didn't he do the same thing to Evangel and Angela? Well, like I said before, when someone does evil, they don't remember to cover all their tracks. But God saved Evangel and Angela. He protected them all the way till the end. Mama Mishai and her husband were called to the police station. They couldn't believe their daughters had survived everything. It felt like a miracle. Then, the man they had seen at the hotel walked in. He looked at Evangel and Angela and said, I promised to get you out, and God did it. His name was Mr. Ojo. He was actually an undercover officer. A year ago, he got a report about a young girl who went missing at the same hotel. But the case was pushed aside because the hotel owner had powerful connections. Mr. Ojo didn't give up. He kept going to the hotel and acting like a guest to gather evidence. Because he kept asking questions, he was transferred to another branch of the police station, still within Abuja. But he did not stop. He continued his investigation quietly. When he finally had strong evidence, he contacted Officer Sheyi, the junior officer who had taken Mama Mishai's report seriously. Officer Sheyi was passionate about justice, and together they made a plan to arrest those involved. The suspects were taken to court on the final day of judgment. Grandpa Onus was sentenced to life imprisonment for kidnapping, human trafficking, and unlawful confinement. The hotel manager, who helped cover up the crimes and worked hand in hand with Grandpa Onus, was sentenced to 15 years in prison. Madam Shola, who handled and deceived the girls while working closely with them, was also sentenced to 15 years. Bumi, who was a victim and acted under deep manipulation, was released and placed under therapy and spiritual guidance to help her heal and recover. The hotel was demolished by the government and it was left abandoned. No one wanted to buy the land. It was seen as a place of evil and bad luck. Evangel and Angela were finally free from the darkness that almost ended their lives. Mr. Ojo, who also happens to be a wealthy man, promised to sponsor their university education until they graduated. Their family could not thank God enough for the miracle and blessing he brought to their home. What was meant to bring them shame and sorrow turned around for good. They prayed, cried, and danced with joy. Neighbors came to celebrate with them, and their story became one that inspired others never to give up on God. When God steps into any situation, no darkness can stand. His presence brings light, even in the middle of chaos. This story reminds us that no matter how dangerous or hopeless things may seem, God's light still shines. Don't give up. He is still working, even when you can't see it. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to this channel, and turn on your bell notification so that once I post a new story, you'll be the first to know. Until we meet again, besties, remain blessed.